And I welcome everyone who is watching us or streaming us as we start this meeting, a special board meeting regarding BGS auction. Public notice statement, please, Ada.
Thank you, Mr. President. Adequate public notice has been given pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice has been posted at the board's office and website, emailed to the Department of State, and to newspapers of broad circulation within the state.
Thank you. And roll call, please.
Commissioner Holden?
Here.
Commissioner Solomon?
Here.
Commissioner Shivakula?
Here.
Commissioner Gordon?
Here.
President Fiorliso?
Here. And when's our next meeting, regularly scheduled meeting, Ada?
Our next regular board meeting will be live streamed via YouTube on Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022 at 10 a.m.
Okay, very good. We will be going into executive session, and we will be addressing, as I indicated initially, in the matter of the provisions of the Basic Generation Service, or BGS, for the period beginning June 1, 2022. The board will take action on this item during the regular session. Will the Attorney General's office please explain the justification for going into executive session?
Yes, good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. This matter falls within the contract negotiation and public funds exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act. These exceptions are found at New Jersey Statute 10:4-12B 5 and 7. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Once we go into executive session, we'll be going to another venue. And I guess, Ada, we sign off of Zoom, sign on to the other venue, and then sign back on to Zoom.
That is correct.
Okay, very good. All right. May I have a motion to please go into executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. We are now in executive session and we will sign off here. Regular session. We had our executive session, and I think we're ready to make a public presentation here. So I'm going to pass this over to Ryan Moran, who was our lead in the BGS auction. Ryan?
Thank you, President Fioraliso. Good morning. This matter relates to the basic generation service auctions for rates that will go into effect beginning June 1, 2022, if the board approves and certifies the results. The BGS RSCP auction was conducted on February 7th, representing approximately 4,922 megawatts of load in total. The RSCP auction lasted 18 rounds with all 54 tranches filled by the auction. The auction started with 15 registered bidders and finished with 10 winning bidders. The cents per kilowatt hour winning prices are as followed. ACE 7.557, JCP&L 7.75, PSE&G 7.63, and Rockland 8.205. The BGS CIEP auction was conducted on February 4th, representing approximately 2,765 megawatts of load in total. The BGS CIEP auction lasted 28 rounds with all 37 tranches filled. The auction started with 6 registered bidders and finished with 5 winning bidders. The dollar per megawatt day winning prices are as followed. ACE 284.85, JCP&L 254.80, PSE&G 276.26, and Rockland 260.48. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Frank Mossberg from Bates White to give a little bit more detail.
Frank?
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Frank Mossberg from Bates White. We are the board advisor for the BGS auction. Based on our review of and participation in the process, we would recommend that you certify the results of the CIEP and RSCP auctions, and I'll give a little detail on each. We'll start with the RSCP auction. This is the residential auction. The bottom line here is it was a good auction. It was very competitive. Price-wise, prices were consistent with market conditions. We had expected prices to go up due to rising energy and natural gas costs, and that is indeed what we saw. However, we're replacing only 1/3 of the supply portfolio. When it comes to a bill impact, this is only part of the bill. There's a couple other factors, such as true-ups that are going back to ratepayers. So when you put that all together, we actually have very stable results, anywhere from about a 1% to 2% average bill decrease. We would recommend that you accept these results for 3 reasons. First, this was an open and transparent auction. Second, it was competitive. And third, winning prices were consistent with market conditions. On the first point, this was a price-only evaluation. All non-price terms were standardized. All bidders, including affiliates, signed the same contracts, and all rules were clearly explained and fairly applied by the auction manager, NERA. NERA gave us full access to the entire process, and we were able to independently review round-by-round bidding data and independently determine the winning bidders and winning bid prices. I'll note that evaluation was all done remotely due to the pandemic, as was the process last year, and that everything was tested beforehand and ran smoothly during the auction. In terms of a competitive auction, I can share a few things publicly. First, the number of registered bidders was 15. That compares to 17 last year. That's still a pretty healthy number of bidders. The number of tranches available at the maximum starting price or eligible to bid at the maximum starting price was 3.11 tranches for every tranche needed. That's about the same as last year. That number was 3.28. So that's still a good amount of excess supply. That's what drives prices down round to round. And of our 15 registered bidders, we had 10 winners. That compares to 9 last year. That's a good diversity of winners. We also saw no signs of collusive behavior, nor did our auction theory expert, Professor Ken Hendricks of the University of Wisconsin. In terms of prices, as I mentioned, they were consistent with market conditions. Prices are up compared to last year, anywhere from 18 to 22%, due to increasing energy prices. These are the result of increasing natural gas prices, which have a number of drivers. However, as I said, we're replacing, when we look at bill impact, we're replacing only 1/3 of the supply portfolio. This is only a part of the bill. And we have other factors such as changes in rate allocation factors and capacity price true-ups that will be going back to ratepayers. So the average bill will actually drop on average about 1 to 2% depending on the utility. Finally, we checked bids with our benchmark pricing model, and all bids were within the range that this model would predict for a bidder to offer. On the CIEP side, we would also recommend that you certify the results for similar reasons. It had an open and fair design, just like the RCP. It was sufficiently competitive. Here, we would expect lower participation. It's a smaller auction. And we had 6 registered bidders with 5 winners. Last year, we had 7 registered bidders and 6 winners. Again, at the maximum starting price, had just under 2.3 tranches eligible to bid for every tranche needed. Last year, that number was about 2.5, so this is kind of in line with past numbers. And there was no sign of collusion. In terms of CIEP prices, the CIEP product is put together a little differently. The cost or the price from this auction only covers really 2 components, the cost of capacity and the cost of meeting your RPS requirements. Based on the fact that the cost of capacity dropped from last year to this upcoming year, we would expect prices to go down. And in fact, all prices for all utilities were down anywhere from about 14 to 30%. So that concludes my remarks, but I'm happy to take questions.
Before we get into questions, Frank, anyone from NERA who would like to make any comments?
Yes. Hi. Thank you, President Fiordaliso. Thank you, commissioners. Before getting into NERA's comments, I just wanted to mention that I believe when reading the prices for RSCP, Ryan mentioned 8.205 for RICO. The price from the auction we have is 8.206. And then looking at the results of the BGS RSCP auction, NERA recommends that the board certify the results because the auction was conducted in a fair and transparent manner, was conducted in accordance with the board's directives throughout the 2022 BGS proceedings. The bidding environment was competitive, with resulting in 10 winners from across competitive bidding over 18 rounds. The final auction prices are consistent with market conditions and the market assessment of risks. Finally, there's no evidence of collusion, and auction prices appear to reach valuations in a competitive manner, which is a hallmark of the BGS auction process the board has consistently found to be successful.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else from NERA?
Yes, thank you, President Fiordaliso. This is Rachel Northcutt from NERA. I'll speak a bit about the BGS CIEP auction. NERA recommends that the board certify the results of the auction. The BGS CIEP auction was competitive. It was conducted in a fair and transparent manner, adhering to the auction rules and protocols. The bidding environment was competitive. There was no evidence of collusion or improper coordination, and the auction resulted in prices that are consistent with market conditions and the assessment of risk.
Thank you, Rachel. Ryan, excuse me. I'm going to pass it back to you and for any additional comments and or a recommendation from staff to the board.
Great. Thank you, President Fiordaliso, and thanks, Paul, for catching that. So I'm going to go into the recommendation. The auction manager responsible for conducting the 2022 auctions was the National Economic Research Associates, or NERA. The auctions were also continuously monitored by staff from the Division of Energy, as well as by the board's consultant, Bates White LLC. Nira and Bates White have both provided post-auction checklists that have been reviewed by staff that include an in-depth analysis on how the BGS RSCP and BGS CIEP auctions were conducted. Both the independent Nira and Bates White post-auction reports are consistent and indicate that the auctions proceeded without interruption according to the board-approved auction rules in an acceptably fair and transparent manner, and that the board should certify the auction results. Staff assigned to oversee the auctions also recommends that the board certify the final results of the BGS RSCP and BGS CIEP auctions in their entirety and approve the closing prices for each EDC. Staff further recommends that the board direct the EDCs to execute the necessary documents with the winning bidders, including the BGS supplier master agreements, implement the BGS rates resulting from the auctions beginning June 1, 2022, and file tariff sheets reflecting those rates by March 25th, 2022.
May I have a motion and a second so that we can discuss it?
Moved.
Second.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments relative to the presentation? I want to thank our consultants, Nira and Bates White, for their consistent support and guidance. And it has been a wonderful experience working with you during this process, which has been very successful for the New Jersey ratepayer. And I want to thank especially our energy division, and particularly Ryan Moran, for the work in coordinating this auction, and another successful auction, and one that we, I think, are pleased with. With that, I'm going to ask for a roll call. Ada?
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. And today, we approved the results of the state's 21st annual electricity auctions for basic generation service. 21 years we've been doing this. Both auctions secured commitments for approximately 7,687 megawatts of customer requirements, and roughly 1/3 of the needs of residential and small commercial customers in the state. The results will translate into stable energy costs for electricity supplied to most residents and small and or medium-sized businesses across the state, starting June 1, 2022. Beginning June 1st, average monthly residential bills will decrease in all 4 electric distribution companies' territories, with impacts ranging from a 1.1% decrease to a 2.8% decrease. The board continues to monitor and strongly advocate in transmission proceedings at FERC. Consistent with the goals of Governor Murphy, in an effort to mitigate impacts to New Jersey ratepayers. We continue to see transmission costs increase, and these are costs we have no control over, and that directly affect each and every one of us as ratepayers. The auction was competitive, as you heard, throughout the bidding process based upon the number of bidders, the number of offerings for each block of power auctioned, and the competitive prices that resulted. Overall, I think we can again say the 2022 BGS auction was extremely successful, and beneficial to the ratepayers in the state of New Jersey. Before we sign off, do any of my colleagues have any comments they would like to make?
Well, Mr. President, I think I echo your comments. I think it has been 21 years, as you said. It's been a successful process, and I always had some questions about it. But I think in order to provide some stable rates to the ratepayers, especially during the time of the pandemic, I think trying to reduce the prices. Maybe it's a true up cost, but still, I think it sends a good message that we care. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Again, thank you to our consultants. And again, Ryan, good job. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very, very much for tuning us in.
Thank you all.